We have Fresina from Mexico, she says. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I have a question. If I travel to another country, and since I know I can't go alone, my best friend who is gay will accompany me. We're going to Pakistan. Do you think he will face discrimination because of who he is? He is Christian and I am Muslim. We are both Mexican. By the way, greetings from Mexico. Thank you. Well, that sister is asking a question about being accompanied by a gay person. My God, what kind of Muslims are there in Mexico? And how is she going to travel to an Islamic country? First of all, we say let's see what the correct behavior is for a Muslim woman in various situations and contexts. Is it allowed for a Muslim woman to have a travel companion, especially when considering cultural and religious guidelines? Do you mean are they going to share the same hotel room and they won't be holding hands? Is that allowed from an Islamic perspective or not? That is the first question. From an Islamic perspective, can a woman have such an intimate companion in the same room while traveling or not? Islamically, a woman can have contact with the opposite sex just as a man can have contact with the opposite sex. When that person is a close relative, such as a father, brother, uncle, or is her legal partner, Islamically. Apart from that, I may have this friendship, but nothing more than that relationship of respect. What I mean is, for example, I cannot take a girl who is my student as a companion if we are going to share the same hotel room. That is not allowed Islamically. My friend, she is my student and I trust her. Islamically, it is not allowed to be alone in a room with a woman who is not related. So Islamically, that is prohibited. For example, in Iran, when they want to share a hotel, ask the person what the relationship is between you two. So if they are men and women, do they have to be separated or do they have to be a couple? Generally, for Iranians, it's like that. I don't know for foreigners, but Islamically, it is not allowed for you to be alone with a man. Well, that's the first thing. Secondly, how does Islam view a person who has an addiction? We have said that Islamically, that practice is considered a vice. Does Islam allow me perhaps, for example, to have a drug-addicted friend? Well, once I approach a drug addict to advise them, to tell them that this is not the right way to live, that they need to quit marijuana, that they need to return to a healthy life, that's fine. But is it allowed to be friends with a person who has a vice, like a drug addict, a drug dealer, an alcoholic, or a prostitute? Islamically, friendship has to be based on faith, meaning the affection we share. As Muslims, we respect everyone. A person is a non-believer, they have a different faith, we respect them as a human being. Someone who commits a sin, I do not respect their sin, but I respect the person as a human being. Do you understand? For us, as Muslims, it is not allowed to insult, mock, or discriminate against another person. But at the same time, we have a responsibility to advise what is good and to prevent what is bad. If my brother, my friend, or a friend is committing a sin, which is considered a sin Islamically, like in your case, have a duty, a responsibility to prevent the wrongdoing, to tell them that what they are doing is wrong. If this person insists on their sinful behavior, I will not continue to be friends with that person. Let's see. For example, I have a friend who is a thief. I have the responsibility to advise him, to prevent him from committing more theft. A person who engages in usury, bribery, I don't know, violates some Islamic law, hits their wife, steals, insults, mistreats their children, mocks others, any sin, I, as a Muslim, have the responsibility to command what is good and to prevent what is bad. But if that person insists on their sin or on the sinful way of life they have, a person who masturbates, a person who commits fornication, commits adultery, engages in prostitution, any sin. And sodomy is also considered a capital sin in Islam. Meanwhile, this person is immersed, or rather sunk in sin. It is not allowed to enter into a friendship with that person. Islamically, with a lot of respect, I have to stay away from a person who has a sinful habit. Why? Because it is known in Islam, and this is true, that sins are contagious, meaning they will infect you. They are contagious, they will spread to you. One sin will contaminate you. It means that when I am going to be friends with several people and they have a vice, I will also be affected by that vice. Psychologists say you are the average of the 5 people you love the most, of the 5 influencers you love the most, of the 5 people who are closest to you. You are the average of all of them. Do you understand? A person is the average of the 5 people they follow, love, influencers, travel friends. So as a Muslim, I need to have these 5 people who are more faithful than I am. Why? So that they affect my faith. Or rather, they will influence my faith, so that I can be more faithful. So Islamically, it is not allowed. It is not allowed to associate with a person who has a vice like that way of life. It is not allowed. So, for me, as a Muslim, Islamically, from the perspective of Islamic jurisprudence, it is not allowed to have a gay companion. With all due respect, sir, I don't share that way of life. I don't share this with you. You live your life. I advise you to leave that way of life. I can't recognize it. In an Islamic country, that way of life is not recognized. It's like a vice. Now, let me ask you a question. In the West, thank God, is pedophilia still a crime? Thank God, zoophilia is still a crime in many countries. Not everywhere. So, if a person says, I am a pedophile, then you are going to recognize it. It's not a crime. Why do you want to sleep with underage people? It's not right. It's not right. And they say, no, it's just that I have habit. I love it. And can you accompany that person? Oh, I have that friend. What am I supposed to do? No, Islamically, it's not allowed. You have to advise him to do good and prevent him from doing evil. Please, sir, that's not the right way of life. You have to give up that vice. You need to get married. Have a normal life. You need medical attention. You need psychological help. Go, seek professional help. There are doctors there who will help you establish the right way of life. So, the same thing happens to us when we deal with an LGBTQ person or other people. For example, a woman who has fallen into prostitution, a child who is into drug addiction, among anything that Islam considers a sin. So it's clear, as a Muslim, we cannot adapt to that way of life. May God guide you, dear sister. Honestly, I'm worried about that way of life you've chosen. I hope that God helps you and guides you on the right path. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.